You've come to us on another Wednesday here at WebDM. I'm Pruitt. This is Jim Davis. As you can see, we have a set piece. Let's have an encounter. All right, Jim, we've talked about creating your own campaign, right? The players are finding stuff out. They find out about the bad guy. He's going to be here. We're going to have a big set piece encounter. It's the Avengers taking on Ultron in his home lair.
Absolutely.
So how do you set that up? Where does it happen?
So
how does it happen?
You know, it's different than a random encounter, which is like we're wandering through the woods and happen to come upon a tribe of ogres.
Yeah.
Or we're in the dungeon and the mimic leaps out of the chest and attacks us.
Right.
Those are random encounters and they just happen quickly. They're of low consequence usually. Well, they don't have to be. Set piece encounters this is it. And it could be the centerpiece of an entire campaign or an entire session. A lot of people, they only run with set piece encounters. Set piece encounters are really good if you don't have a lot of time to play and you want to make sure that the fights you do have and the action you do have are memorable. But they take a little bit of extra work. You can't just wing them. Or you shouldn't if you want them to be really memorable.
How do you set up yours? What's the most important aspect of your set piece? Is it location? Is it the amount of enemies?
Location I consider secondarily, unless the location is a part of the encounter in some way. So when you guys went to the Sea of Moving Ice and the Rise of Tiamat game, and you're fighting the dragon that's up there, part of the encounter is his iceberg lair that you are fighting him in. And so you need to give some thought to what's the layout like, what's the composition like. If the players just wreck shop in here, what's gonna happen? How is it gonna collapse? For some people, location is much more important and they wanna fight in memorable locations. They want objects to interact with. They want things going on in the background. They want a lot of moving parts to play with. And for that style of play, it can be really fun to have something about the location that the players can manipulate or use. Fighting on a cliffside. Well, maybe not just a cliffside. What's there? How do you interact with that cliffside? What's at the bottom? Can they push?
Could you start a rock slide? Could you
start a rock slide? Yeah.
Could it be something like in the Mines of Moria, where stuff's starting to fall apart and you can mess with it? You decide on how many enemies, what they're going to have there, if they're going to have reinforcements. So how do you strike that balance where you don't underwhelm the PCs, but you don't want to overwhelm them necessarily?
It brings up a point about 5th edition, at least. The CR system, as outlined, is not the best gauge for encounter difficulty that Dungeons & Dragons has come up with before.
No.
It's not really.
No.
4th edition did a much better job of this, but they did it by creating a really rigid level system and a rigid role system that the monsters fit into that a lot of people found stifling or not really conducive to creative play. Whereas 5th edition, they're trying to give you those tools. This is a deadly encounter, this is a hard encounter, this is how many monsters are there. But I found in actual play that a lot of that is just useless and cumbersome to try to come up with. So my kind of rule of thumb that I've developed is if you're going to have an encounter that centers around one big monster, that there should be separate sort of minions or ads, for those of you familiar with Warcraft, per PC. So I've got a dragon, then I'm going to have something something else. Maybe that's the dragon's children, or maybe it's sort of minions that it keeps around its lair for that purpose, or summoned monsters, something like that. I tend to wing it, and as the campaign progresses and I get to know the players better and what their characters are capable of, I will wing it even more. But I will always have an idea before set piece encounter, this is what wave 1 looks like, this is what wave 2 looks like. If I need more monsters, if it's looking like by the second round of combat this is going to be over, this is what will happen. Because the whole point of the set piece encounter is that you have a memorable action scene and not necessarily try to recreate some sort of they've only got 5 enemies here, so if they kill them all in one round. I mean, that's not why you're playing a set piece encounter. You're playing it to show off your characters, to have use all their powers. You
got to make it dynamic.
You got to make it dynamic in some way. And for some people that's not their style of play. That's all right. I kind of like waves of enemies with sort of centered around a big creature or monster that sort of sets as the kind of the anchor of that particular wave, and then they'll have sort of minions or people that.
Yeah, it's kind of like Left 4 Dead. with the specials and the waves of zombies.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What's the special of this wave? Is it a chimera? Is it a manticore? Is it a giant? If it's a giant, who's there to make sure that that giant doesn't die in one round when all the PCs jump on him, and to make sure that there's something. I mean, you can think of it in terms of like, in my head, it gets weird with like modern military history. You don't want to just throw an aircraft carrier out there. It's got to have destroyers and frigates to keep it safe, to make sure it's protected. But the real power is that aircraft carrier. And I feel the same way about monsters. It's like the real power is in a big monster and what they can do and how they can fight. But you want to make sure that they've got some kind of support.
Your PCs, they run in, they start kicking some ass. But maybe you've done too good of a job.
Right. That happens.
And for the PCs, I mean, is failure an option? You know?
I mean, yeah. In my mind, failure should always be an option. That part of what makes the game fun is that the PCs can royally screw this up. The cleric gets teleported to hell. The barbarian is dead somewhere in the wilderness. You don't know where because you were flying on the back of a dragon and you dropped him 50,000 feet below or whatever. You know, that it could go south really quickly. So I find the higher level D&D I play, the more I get less concerned about risk and whether or not the players fail because they have more tools to recover from failure. At lower level, I might go somewhat easier on them, unless that's what the campaign is about. Unless it's like you could have a total wipeout at first level, you guys just make new characters. It really gets to the heart of it. I kind of think that failure should always be an option, but it's largely down to what does the group want? If I've got a bunch of players and there's a TPK and the wind's taken out of their sails and they don't want to play anymore, then guess what? I like playing, and I might not let them have a TPK because I enjoy playing with them as people and don't want to see them completely disheartened by the fact their players died, or their characters died.
So let's say you don't TPK, you just capture them. That can be an issue for some players also, right? I mean,
for some reason, I don't know, maybe there's something in like player mindset that seems to transcend groups, but for some reason, capturing and taking their stuff is something that most players seem to really hate. And my advice for those players is to just run with it. The game is not over, your character is not done and gone. And just sort of recognize that there is life in the campaign beyond getting captured, having your prized items taken, or even death. After a certain level in D&D, death is not really an inconvenience as long as you've got a cleric or access to a cleric.
It's kind of an involuntary vacation.
Yeah, and I kind of see that as a feature of the game and not a bug. There's a lot of people, they don't like the fact that death is cheap and that you can recover easily from it. To me, it's like, it's D&D. Right? Like, raise dead is just what you do after a certain level.
And if you don't like that, what's stopping you from saying, okay, that spell doesn't exist in my world?
Right, or that it's a really complicated ritual, or that it's only a handful of people can cast it, and you've got to get the favor of the High Hierophant to come down and cast that spell for you. You can't just, all right, Bob, bust out your raise dead. Come on. But I think failure, that's something that every group should negotiate for themselves. Is this something that they want? DMs should know their players well enough to know that if there's a TPK, that the players aren't going to revolt and leave the table. And at the same time, if there's a TPK, that can be fun, that can be interesting. Sometimes it's fun to just go out in a blaze of glory. And then the next campaign pick up from where that failure left off.
Dude, we have that exact example, and I think we've talked about it before with Tobias the Ebon Foe. But the previous party ran in on a dragon that they should have just asked to help. Right. It was a true neutral red dragon. That would have helped them, right? That would have helped us.
It would have helped you.
But no, you listen to that player who's playing the Dragon Slayer, and he's like, "Let's go kill it."
Right.
And then you die 4 rounds later.
Or 2/3 of the party dies.
And the others
surrender, and now the vampires have won. They've wiped out the sun, and the drow and orcs and vampires have taken over the earth. And the next campaign is how you deal with that failure.
That was a lot of fun. It was a great time.
To me, embracing failure and embracing the fact that the players could massively and royally screw this up is part of the game. And however you like to play, consider allowing your players to fail.
Awesome.
Not forcing it on them, but letting it happen if it happens.
It's not the only option, but it is an option.
It is, yes. Absolutely.
Thanks again for watching WebDM. We're going to have new ones every Wednesday. Be sure to click the subscribe button, and also if you want to head over to Facebook, you can check out Jim's inspiration list for his campaign coming up. Tell your friends. Come back next week.